We are talking today about stepmoms and mental health, and it's a discussion you are not going to want to miss. Welcome, welcome. I am excited about today's guest, and I know I'm always excited about our guests because we get the best guests. But today's guest is someone who has become a good friend and who I first got to know on social media, but has since spoken at the Stepmom Summit. I've met her in person, and she's become a good friend, and we share a real passion for all things mental health and step family life. So I'm excited for you to meet her too. So today I have Rachel Dunn. She is a wife, mother, stepmom, writer, coach, mental health counselor, baseball fanatic, truth teller, follower of Jesus Christ. And she talks about not being afraid to admit that stepmotherhood has been one of the hardest challenges she's ever had. And so as a stepfamily coach and a counselor, this work is not just professional for her, it is personal. She has walked the hard road of stepfamily life and is very committed to being there for stepmoms. She views her stepmom support as a calling, and she creates a judgment-free, safe environment for her clients to feel seen and understood. She likes to create a space where stepmoms' thoughts and feelings can be normalized and validated, which is so important. She creates a space where they can be real and raw about the struggles of stepfamily life, and she gives them practical tools and solutions to create a life in a family that they can actually enjoy. A place where they can find peace and purpose in the chaos of blended family life. So I am excited for you to get to know my friend Rachel, and let's dive right in. Rachel, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Um, okay, where should we start? I think I always love to talk to stepmoms about their origin story. So tell me how you became a stepmom and kind of how you got here.
Okay, I love to talk, so I'm gonna try to make this as concise as possible. So I was, I guess, like 27, had just broken off an engagement with a really great guy, just wasn't meant to be. And we actually were at a wedding when my sister took my brother-in-law's phone and texted my now husband Seth and was like, "Do you want to go on a blind date with my sister-in-law?" And they did it behind my back. I was not interested, especially when I found out he had a kid and an ex-wife. I was like, I'm 27, like, not gonna happen. But I was also like, I just had a breakup and he is cute, and so this could be fun. We went on a blind date and it went way better than I thought it would. I mean, you just couldn't deny there was something there. And a year and a half later, he proposed, and I thought I knew what I was getting into. Definitely did not.
Famous
But
last mom
yeah,
words.
but I knew, yeah, like, but I definitely knew, like, I knew he was a person God wanted me to be with. Like, there was no doubt from day
Yeah,
one. So,
I love that. And so, how has your dynamic been? So, you are a licensed counselor. You also are a coach. Like, how did you
mhm.
decide to start doing all of that?
So I knew the first year into stepmotherhood, I kept looking for like, sources online, and I just could not find anything, especially that integrated faith in any way, because that was a big piece for me. So I remember God like kind of putting it on my heart, like, hey, there's like a gap that needs to be filled here. And I just knew I was going to help do that one day, but I didn't know what that would look like. In 2018, before I got pregnant with my second son, I just started writing a blog, spiritual stepmom blog. I just did a blog page online. Somehow made that page myself. It was a miracle. And it was crazy how much traction it got and like how many people were reaching out to me when I was just sharing my story and like what I felt like God had taught me, how I was growing through it, how I was, and it was also feel like it was educating some people. I'm like, hey, this is what stepmoms actually go through and feel like. And I've never been one who's scared to be transparent or vulnerable in a public space. I've always been okay with that. So here comes COVID. We're stuck at home a lot, and I broke my foot. So I literally was like sitting down on a bed most days. And I just felt like, hey, I got to, like, women need, like, they need support. Like, they need somebody to walk this journey with. And like, I don't really remember exactly like what made me make the push, but my husband and I both went ahead and got certified to do step family coaching. And I immediately, as soon as I posted that I did that, like, I got quite a few clients, and actually some that I've still have that I work with periodically that I've had since the beginning of that, which is really cool.
What great.
And I mean, that's just how I fell into it. Then I ended up being like, hey, I want to do this on a bigger level. Like, really fell in love with trauma and mental health and all the things. I'm going through my own struggles with anxiety, all that tied in, some of it about stepmom stuff, some of it not about stepmom stuff at all. So really fell in love with that and ended up going to get my master's during COVID too. So, and I'm working my PhD right now. I'm just kind of nerding out on all that stuff. But
I love
I keep wanting to go take it to the next level. But yeah, I don't, it's crazy. Like people it just kind of came into my path. Like now's the time to do this. Looking back, I can't tell you there was like some pivotal moment where it was like, oh, I know I'm supposed to do this. It just happened and it was just meant to be.
I love that. I love it. So your Instagram handle is spiritual stepmom. Like, let's talk a little bit about the faith stuff because that is something that's sort of a different
Yeah.
knit, a different
Yeah.
angle on this. And I have a strong faith, but I don't talk about it as much. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
how did you start kind of getting into, like, you started from the outset talking about your faith.
Yeah.
How has
So,
that impacted your journey?
yeah. I mean, honestly, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't still be on this journey. I wouldn't have survived this journey up to this point without my faith. Like, I'm just being honest. And I really don't know how any stepmom does. I really don't, because it requires something beyond ourselves to go through some of these things and something that is heart transformational, not just behavioral transformation or just dealing with something. Like I needed heart change. But going back to how my the faith played into that from the beginning, like as I said earlier, the whole reason I did it is because I truly felt God was calling me to do it. And I knew from the get-go I wanted this platform to be something that ultimately turned back to hope, which I think find in God, right? So like no matter what you're going through, I like to be really brutally honest about what it's like to be a stepmom and the struggles and all those things, but I want to always turn it back to hope, like, hey, I've been here, I've felt this, I know how this is, but here's what God showed me, here's how God pulled me out of the muck, and just washed me clean from all that. And there's just been so many times that when I say I was about to throw the towel in, and I don't mean necessarily on my marriage, but like on the effort emotionally that I was putting into my stepdaughter. Like there were so many times that I was like, I'm just like washing my hands clean
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this child in this situation because it was just too much on me. And like when I tell you it would be, I'd turn to a verse that day that literally said, Rachel, dry your eyes, your work will be rewarded. Like there's literally a verse in the Bible. I remember turning it to that day and God's like, I'm speaking to you. Like, I've got you. I see you. I see what you're going through. Keep going. Like, and once I know God's in it with me, I'm like, yes, like, let's go. Like, I know that's the kind of strengthening that I need
Uh-huh.
for me. Cause I'm a by nature, like I'm a human. Can be selfish. I can be self-centered. And God always brings me back to like the piece of it's not all about me. And like what love really means and sacrifice and all the things. And so faith is an absolute necessity for me on this journey. And I'm also one who is not shy to talk about my faith and like it or not. If you don't like it, you don't have to follow my faith. I've always just been like, hey, who's meant to be on this page will be on this page. But even if you're not a Christian, the principles that I talk about and the things that I explore on that page, like it works for anybody.
Well, I love that you do it with a message of hope because I think that ultimately the stepmoms that find us are looking for hope, right? Like they're in a really
Absolutely.
tough place when they find us. And what we can start with when we start working with them is hope that, you are not experiencing this alone. You're not in it alone, walking this walk with you. Did you have like a rock bottom? I know we always talk about what our bathroom floor moments are and all
A
that good.
few of those.
Did you have one?
A few hundred.
I know, right?
I think I do remember one kind of rock bottom one that sticks out to me, and it was we were about to go to Disney World for the first time, and this was probably in 2017 or 18, and I had never been to Disney World, so I was like a kid, like so excited, and my youngest was he was my only biological child at the time. He was like 2, and we were going to go during Mardi Gras break so my stepdaughter could come, and she ended up coming to our house with the flu. She tested positive for the flu and she had spent the night with a friend who had the flu. And I mean,
And you know that just takes down the whole
we had
house.
2 grandparents coming with us who, they didn't want to get the flu, like Seth's parents, his mom was still alive then. They were coming with us. And that was like, I was just like, I'm freaking done. You just ruined something else. I think I actually like told my family I was getting a divorce over Disney World, but it wasn't about Disney World. That's the thing. It wasn't, it was like one more thing from his past, like messing everything up again.
Uh-huh.
When we got engaged, everything hit the fan. We ended up in a custody battle during our first whole year of marriage. It was drama, conflict. I mean, it was just honestly kind of hell from the get-go. And it's like, I'm done. And I remember telling my mother-in-law, I'm like, "I love y'all, but I think I'm gonna have to make some changes because 'cause I'm like, I'm not having this, do this with my life. Like, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. I'm not doing it." And so I
It
do.
is funny, like, when you realize when you have, like, a big blowout fight, over something like that, and you realize it's not about Disney. I was just
Yes,
having a conversation with some of the women in my membership, like, you fight and you'll have this, like, knockdown drag out over, like, leaving dishes in the sink, and I'm like, "But
it ain't
it's
about
not
the dishes.
really about the
It's not
dishes.
about the dishes.
It's not
Yeah,
about the
it was
dishes."
just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
And in which really the next year, a lot of other stuff happened that kind of came did the same similar patterns of some stuff we had to deal with. But I think for the first time ever, I acted out a little bit around my stepdaughter. Like that week of Mardi Gras break, I was like, I'm not keeping her while she's out of school. Like I'm not in the space to do that. And that was a boundary for me. But I can't say there was not some punitive parts in me when I made that boundary. So I'm gonna recognize that too. Like it was both needed, but also a little bit punitive.
Mhm.
And I did something I've never done before, and I ignored her for days. And not in a mean way, just a well, it was mean, actually, looking back, but I wasn't trying to be mean, it was almost like I couldn't even look at her
Yeah.
because I didn't there was so much anxiety and so much resentment that I couldn't even make eye contact, like, I didn't have anything to say, you know what I mean? Like, I it's almost like
That's so interesting that you say that because I think that like, we talk a lot about how stepkids feel about us and how the way that they feel, it's not that they dislike us or have problems with us, it's what we represent. And so it's really interesting to hear you say that because like obviously you weren't hating on this little
no,
girl, but
mm-mm.
but she's there and she's representing this whole big thing,
It was exactly it was
you
it's
know?
like in that moment, you represent the destroying of everything I've wanted to do. Like,
Yeah.
what I wanted, everything I was excited about has now fallen apart because of you, or because you're here. Because of your existence in my life, basically, but not in a way that's personal or attacking, just in the big overall picture of this has caused my life a lot of pain and chaos, and I did not see this for my life. And so we did end up, I finally stopped her and hugged her about day 3 in, and like we just like crumbled in each other's arms because she was upset by, and I was just like, I will never do that again. Like I could cry talking about it because I'm like that. But that was a turning point for me where I really decided that I was not going to let the way I feel change the way I treated anyone
Yeah.
in my family.
Yeah, yeah, and
Huge
that's I
turning
mean,
point
that's
for
a
me.
big lesson, right? Like, you can, especially kids who, it's not always it's not their fault, and
It's
and
not.
I think it's a great lesson that you could teach her that, you could recognize that maybe that wasn't the best way to handle it and you could apologize, and I think when kids see adults apologizing, it is such a powerful lesson for them,
I
and
agree.
just in terms of, like, how to just relate to other people.
Yeah, and honestly, we're gonna have ruptures in our relationship, but it's how we repair them that matters. And like, I'll tell you right now, we were closer because of that, because we repaired that rupture. That actually just brought us closer, and it actually just increased intimacy in our relationship in the long run. Like, it really did because she saw that vulnerability from me. She saw me
Yeah.
being authentic about and real about, needing forgiveness and like that I did something wrong when a lot of times in these situations everybody just pretends they're right and never says to the child, "Hey, I made a mistake." Well, I'm like, "I made a mistake, and, like, it's not okay, and I love you, and, like, will you forgive me?" And, like, she needed that, like, that's important. That was important for her to see, and it was important for me to humble myself in that way, and, I'm
That's
not
one of the
scared to
most
say when I'm
powerful
wrong.
things you can do is ask somebody to forgive you for what you've done. I mean, that's a
Absolutely.
really,
And it takes
really powerful.
humility, but, like, we gotta do it. It's somebody's gotta do it. Why not me?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's such a great example, and, you're setting a great example for her too, which I love.
Well, I've screwed up, but I
So
try.
I think one of the things and you and I have talked about this, in previous conversations, not recorded.
Yeah.
So much of stepmom life revolves around grief and the idea
Mhm.
of grief because, you've talked about it, I talk about it all the time. Like, this is different than what we all thought we were getting into.
Mhm.
You can recognize that you're marrying a person with children, but that doesn't mean that's not the same thing as knowing what you're getting.
Yeah.
you know? And it is a lot of grief. Like, how have you dealt with it? And as you have counseled clients and, as you're like studying for, getting your PhD, like what do you see with grief? And I don't know. I guess let's talk first about like how it's played out in your
Yeah.
life and how you work with clients or
Um, Grief really overtook me in the beginning of my stepmom journey. Like, I didn't know how to name it as grief, but like I didn't know what was happening to me because when you think about getting married, because we always think about this through that nuclear lens, like we don't think about grief coming in like a tidal wave as soon as we get married to somebody. We think about it's supposed to be happy and everything's great. And it was like, at that point, like my stepdaughter was there like basically full time and I'm pregnant. I got pregnant on our honeymoon and I'm like, holy moly, like, and we're having normal, like, marriage arguments, like, but also trying to do it around a kid that's not mine. So, like, tiptoeing, walking on eggshells, we're in a custody battle. Like, there's so many weird emotions happening. And I'm like,
so
what
much?
the heck have I done? Like, I just cried a lot. And it didn't help that I had the hormones of pregnancy. Okay. But, like, I already know myself well enough to know those would have been there, whether I was pregnant or not. Like, it was just a tidal wave of emotion for many days, especially when I realized the impact of like I'm pregnant with his child, but he's already done this before. Like it was like it started settling in what look, it boils down to this. I'm so ADD right now. Sorry. Look, it's loss. That's the difference, okay? Like when normal people get married, they're not going in experiencing loss, they're gaining the gain, okay? Like when you go enter a step family, you are immediately carrying loss into the family. Everyone is. So duh, we're going to grieve. Like we're grieving the life we're not going to have. We're grieving that we're not going to have the first. We're grieving a lot of things. We're grieving that we have to live with somebody that maybe we don't want to live with. Okay? Let's just say it. Maybe some people do. Some people don't feel they have permission to say that. Some people don't feel that way. Some people everybody's different, but I'm just saying not everybody wants to live with kids that aren't theirs. That's hard. Like if somebody dropped a kid off at your doorstep that you didn't know and they were like, "Raise this kid." Like how many people would be jumping for joy? Like it's hard. But think about it. It's basically, it's just different. It's a whole different level of complexity to how you're living inside your own home.
But it's
You're
hard.
overthinking.
Yeah, and it's hard to, I had to explain to my friends who are in first marriages, first families, and to my family that it is so different because, you come home from the honeymoon and you're not enjoying, your time all alone building your house together. You're thrown into custody battles and going to sporting things and all of a sudden this
Kid jumping in your bed at 7:30 that's you might
yeah,
not even feel comfortable jumping in your bed with your husband. You know what like even little things where think about, there's some awkward so many stepmoms are uncomfortable with stepkids in their bedroom, but that's not something that normal families deal with. They don't need to think twice about that.
right.
Like there's just different boundaries and there's just different dynamics. Like our dynamics are completely different and nobody's wrong for feeling
Yeah,
grief over like
but we feel guilty about it, stepmoms
absolutely.
feel guilty
Oh, I felt
for
so much guilt.
feeling that
All
grief.
the time, and that didn't help the grief because part of the problem is we are made to feel that our grief over these things is not okay, that
Yeah,
there's something wrong with us.
because we
Because
should be grateful to be there.
exactly, I mean, why not? What little girl grows up though and literally says, "I'm just sitting over here daydreaming about being a stepmom one day,
Yeah.
raising a
One day
stepkid
I'll
with a
meet
with a
some
woman my husband used to be married to." That's my dream, man. That's my dream. Nobody does that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some people do, but I
and
certainly
it
did
can be
not.
a beautiful life, right? But, like, it
Yeah.
is it is hard, and there are things that, there is a lot of grief involved for stepmoms, for the kids, even for our partners who
Yeah.
probably didn't get married the first time thinking that they were gonna get a divorce and be bringing a new mom around their kids, you know?
And then feeling grief that you wish they weren't, wish that stuff didn't bother them or wish that or whatever things might be. Like I wish, you know, feeling grief that you wish he had never done that in the first place. As who nobody wants their husband to have married someone else before. I mean, can we just be real? Like nobody's like, I can't wait to marry a man who's already been married.
So what do you tell stepmoms when they are stuck in that grief and when they have a hard time kinda pulling out of it?
Well, the first thing I say is, you're normal. And they're like, and I'm like, let me just tell you a few thoughts I had. And I'll tell them a few stories and they're like, "Oh wow, this is normal. Really?
Yeah.
You feel," and I'm like, "Yeah, like this is normal."
Yep.
So I normalize it. And then I really just try to get them to sit with it and like get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're not going to move through it if you don't actually like metabolize it and like actually sit with the feelings. And I'm not talking about staying stuck in like, don't sit around watching movies of first families getting married and
Yeah,
cry
just
all day. I'm
sitting
not
with it
talking
is
about
not
that.
moving.
Yes, but like if you get triggered and it comes up, maybe your friend calls and says, I'm pregnant for the first time. And you're like, oh, my husband's already, I'm just making something up. But, or you're at a wedding and you realize, oh, my husband's already done this. Like you've got to, those feelings are telling you something's off. Like it's like, okay, what do I need to deal with? Like, what is this making me feel? Like, and not pushing it away, not running from it, not using other secondary emotions to get away from, like, I'm just going to be angry. Like, can we just deal with the sadness underneath the
Yeah,
anger? Because that's what's really going on. And like,
yeah.
um,
Naming it, acknowledging
yeah,
it,
it doesn't
that's
always feel like sadness is the thing. Like, it can feel like irritability and like just like denial and, anger, just a lot of different things. Depression, like, there's a lot of different ways that grief can look, but like, we have to kind of figure out, is this connected to the loss
huh,
here? Like, we can be self-aware enough to figure that out. Like, if you say, I'm triggered because my husband did that with someone else, so I have that loss of what it was
yeah.
supposed to be, that's a loss there and you're grieving it.
Yeah. It's like taking that next step, like, I'm
Yeah,
triggered because my
go
spouse said
deeper.
this thing, so what is that making me feel? Well, that's making me feel sad, so, like, let me sit with that, and then,
Yeah,
it's kind of looking at, like, what's the emotion underneath that thing that you're
it
feeling,
is.
you
And
know?
people, I'm not saying that's fun, but like if you don't feel it and you just keep it keeps compounding in your body, like it takes true like chemical real estate in your body. Like there's toxins
Yes, it
that build up.
does.
Like if you don't deal with it, it's gonna at some
Yeah.
point. And that's what happened with me kind of with my breaking point, I think, is like just stuffing the guilt, stuffing the sadness, stuffing the grief until finally it's just like, this
Well,
is
and
terrible.
also, I have to say, I mean, because you know that I grew up in the South also, although I have lost a lot of my accent. There is I mean, I know other parts of the country do this too, but I think especially in the South, like, when I was brought up, I mean, you were kind of taught not to make a big deal out of your emotions, and you kinda just like, "Let's stuff it in that jar and screw that lid on real tight," and, tick,
Yeah, no,
tick.
for sure. And I've always been a rebel against that personally since I was a little girl. I'm like, "Oh, this is how I feel, and y'all gonna know it." But I think also, speaking of, like, kinda, like, just stigmas about that stuff, like, I think we're also made to feel like as women that we should be super maternal, and we're supposed to be super nurturing, and we should automatically love any child that comes into our life, and that we're supposed to do motherly things, and that we should love them like they're our own, and, like, that's such a, I feel like a Southern, but not just a Southern
Yeah,
thing, a woman thing
it's a woman thing, yeah.
too. And like that brings so much pressure because we feel like failures based on like assumptions that we didn't even make. They're just so like society based. Like, what do you mean? Like you're a woman. How could you, like how could you not want to be with his kids all the time? Like but then it's also like, but you better not do any mom things that the ex isn't comfortable with, or you better not get close, not too close. Love them like you're on, but don't want them to love you like they're on,
Right.
and don't get in her lane. Stay in your lane, but be a mom. Don't be a mom. And it's like it's so like it's so much role ambiguity in stepmotherhood that it's like mind boggling.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot. Well, so tell me, I guess one last question, then, because I don't want to keep you here all day, although I could talk all day.
Me too.
um, thinking about it from a societal perspective, like essentially what we're talking about that stepmoms deal with is trauma. Like, what do you
Mm.
wish that we could, if we could wave a magic wand and like improve what society thinks about stepmoms or improve something about, the trauma that we experience through those perceptions, what would that look like?
Well, let me say first of all, like when you're talking about trauma, we're dealing with the loss of two things: safety and value. Okay. So, and autonomy is wrapped up in that, right? Let's think about how stepmotherhood innately attacks all those areas. Okay. So, like value as a woman, what we're made to feel, what value we bring to the family system, whether anyone told us that explicitly or not. Like, right. We just kind of talked about that. So, not only that, but we are putting so much effort in, and there are people who are not showing or not saying that we have any value, not recognizing that we have any value. In fact, may make us feel like we have no value at all, whether it's our stepkids or the ex. hopefully not your partner, right? So we have that kind of like that loss of value right there. And then the safety piece, like, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I've always felt safe living with someone who was going back and repeating things or that, wasn't living in my house full time. I don't feel emotionally safe. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells a lot of the time. In the past, I don't feel that way anymore. But there's just that lack of emotional safety there. I think whether you have a great stepkid or a not great stepkid, not great acting. All kids are great, but it's hard. It's lack loss of privacy, right? Loss of like the comfort of like this is my house and I can just be me. I'm free to be me, and there's going to be no repercussions to that. We don't get that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So when you have those two losses there, like we are more vulnerable to trauma because that's essentially what we lose in trauma in the first place, right? And we just reach a point where it's just an inability for our nervous system to cope.
Yeah. I think that's right.
So I think like anybody who's not a step parent, obviously there are going to be different levels of trauma. Mostly talking about just little T trauma here, like not like significant singular events. Everybody's going to have different levels based on their situation, and not just that, the resilience and the wiring of their own nervous system, right? So we're all so unique in the way with what our nervous systems can handle, etc. But at the end of the day, this role comes with chronic stress. This role comes with a lot of unpredictability, that whole blindsided piece. Like, if there was one question I could do to sum up most of stepmotherhood, it's what's next?
So true. That is
If you could
so
really sum it up, like that's kind of was like the ongoing,
yeah, that's so
like,
true.
and I hate to say that, but like even sometimes even when things are really good, you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
like sometimes that's scarier than when it's like when everything's good, it's when you get the most nervous, right?
Yeah.
So I think that whole piece of like that hypervigilance, like
I think that's so
we
true.
kind of have to be on some level, we kind of have to be hyper vigilant. And so we are so vulnerable to trauma. So I just think anybody who's not a step parent, let me just say, if you haven't walked it, you don't get it.
It's true.
But people need to stop judging step parents when they're just finally just like, this is how I feel. Not saying I like how I feel, but this is how I feel. And I just need somebody to like validate it and like not shame me. And like then I can process this and like move through it. Like we need people that are willing to do that, that aren't just step parents. Okay. So like mental health professionals, especially that do not understand the dynamics of step families. Like we need more people
Preach.
and just society in general that can just be like, hey, that's like another level of hard. Like there's a reason the divorce rate is 75%. It's not because it's easy. These people aren't just lazy. Nobody wants a divorce again.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I hope that answered your question because I got a
Yeah,
little,
I feel like we could continue this conversation because I know from our many conversations before, like there's so much that you and I feel passionately about in terms
yes.
of like increasing the services and the resources for step families. So I'm so glad you're out there and tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I have a website that I'm still trying to figure out. But basically Instagram right now, which I'm not super active on as far as posting, but I do post some stories. I do get back to people in their messages, and I'm still doing coaching, which you can access through the website rachelduncoaching.com or through Instagram if you send me a message. I'm pretty good about keeping up with chats in there when I can, and just I love coaching stepmoms, and I can do counseling, but if you have to be in the state of Alabama, and that's obviously a little different dynamic there, but not worth going into right now. But I do offer both of those services, and I love doing it. It'll always be a passion of mine.
Well, we will put links in the show notes so that folks can reach out to you and definitely go follow Rachel at Spiritual Stepmom. And Rachel, thank you so much. And if you are a coach or are at all interested in becoming a coach, head over to YouTube because Rachel and I are actually continuing this discussion over there with another short little clip. So head over there and check it out. Thanks,
All
guys.
right.